In this edition of She Means Business, I sit down with Hannah Awanuga, CEO and DEI expert, and one of the UK's most dynamic voices in leadership today. From starting her career at Barclays at just 17 to shaping global inclusion and strategy, Hannah's story is one of faith, grit, and fearless purpose. She's proof that you can lead with conviction and compassion even when inclusion itself is under fire. Our conversation will dive into courage, culture, and what it really means to create space where everyone belongs. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here.
Listen, I just want to start kind of at the beginning.
Mm.
Can you recall something from your childhood, or even a moment from your childhood where you felt this, looking back, shaped the way you are as a leader?
Mm. Yeah, so believe it or not, there are several moments. And as you mentioned, I joined Barclays when I was 17, but actually joined the Halifax in the UK when I was 16. So I was a school leaver when I joined banking. And as you know, I'm writing a book at the moment called The Illusion of Inclusion. And I recall my first real defining moment of leadership being the first ever leader that I interacted with. And I think of her fondly because she was a black woman and I was 16 years old. And I like to call myself a bit of a rough diamond, if I can say that. And so, I really believe that she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Mm.
And so what that did for my leadership is to look beyond sometimes what you see, even sometimes what you hear, and really look for the potential in people, in young people particularly, because I truly believe if she didn't give me the opportunity, if she didn't see beyond the jeans and the hooded jacket that I turned up to my interview with, then maybe I might not be sitting here with you today. And so for me, that is such a fundamental part of my story is actually that I had a leader really early on who saw way beyond what I was presenting and saw me for my potential and probed me and asked me more questions to then offer me my first job. And so that was probably, one of my first moments in banking, then becoming the most defining moment in my career. And so that's what I would say from a leadership perspective. I've really learned quite early on that you have to look beyond what you can see and you have to really try and give people an opportunity and see their potential.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more,
Mm.
especially those who, don't, weren't born with a sense of entitlement. Uh, we need those advocates, those allies.
Yeah.
Are there any people who really helped influence and inform, it's very specifically family members that informed your sense of justice and your fairness and belonging?
Do you know what? No. But
Mm.
what did influence mine was circumstance. So it was less a person that influenced my kind of passion for DEI and more the circumstance in which we were living in. It was a time where I was in the corporate bank and I didn't see women who looked like me. I didn't see women, period. I didn't see women who looked like me, sounded like me, or came from where I came from. It was the circumstance of being missed for opportunities. It was the circumstance of looking around me and seeing that there are people who are not getting opportunities. It was my circumstance that made me feel like actually this isn't right, this doesn't reflect our society. And so that really drew me to inclusion. Well, why don't I see women who look like me? Why are there no senior women in senior positions in the bank? Why don't we support certain communities? So it was less at the time, and today, of course, I have many role models, right? I have, we the role models that we know and love, and the role models that I'm around every single day. I have loads of role models, but at the beginning of my career, it wasn't really about, oh, I was being inspired by people who were already doing this work. Actually, it was the lack of representation that made me feel like actually somebody, something, we need to do something. And so that's what led me to do this work.
I think oftentimes when we are given opportunity that we didn't necessarily expect, we feel so grateful.
Mm.
And then, like you said, we kind of go, wait a minute, should I really be that
Yeah,
grateful?
yeah, 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 yeah.
How long did it take you to move from gratitude to maybe a little bit of righteousness?
That is such a fantastic question because I spent 17 years at Barclays and I loved every moment. Started as a cashier, left as a global director. I've been promoted several times. I had done loads and loads of work. But for the first 10 years of my career, I was so grateful to Barclays. I had this real sense of gratitude that I owe them everything because they gave me the jobs, right? And there is like out of there is an element of me that is grateful. They paid for my degree. They sent me to university later on. They a fully sponsored degree. I have had three children there, so three maternity leaves. Was able to come back, promoted 7 times. There's a lot to say that there was an environment that allowed me to grow, and so for that I am grateful. However, the gratitude that I experienced early on in my career was almost like I was just grateful to be there, right? Like they had allowed me to be there,
Keyword.
right?
Hmm.
Right. And then and so I suppose as I became more senior and started to realize the value that I was adding
Yeah.
to the business, the value that I was bringing, the opportunities I was creating for others, that's when I realized, oh, hold on. This is a mutual thing. I am also adding value to your business, right? You should also be grateful for me to be here, to choose you as an organization to work for and come and bring myself to. And so it moved from being, I'm so grateful to just being here. You guys gave me an opportunity to I belong here. And I talk a lot about belonging because people often think that you can make somebody belong,
Mm.
but I don't believe that. I believe that belonging is an output. So you belong, you feel like you belong because of a transaction. I call it a transaction, right? So I have given you years of my career, you have given me promotions and maternity leaves and a degree and all these things. So because of that mutual kind of exchange that I have got from having to build my career here, and you have got from the talent that I bring, that's where the sense of belonging comes from. And so I stopped being grateful and started to recognize that actually I belong here, and I had a great time, and we were very successful in the work that I did and the work that we did while I was there. But I love that question because a lot of people, particularly people that come from backgrounds like mine, low socioeconomic backgrounds, African heritage, you often get into these spaces, these corporate spaces, these professional spaces, you're often the first one in your family to ever step foot in a place like that. And you just feel grateful that they gave you a chance without thinking about what you bring.
Girl, listen, I believe in ownership.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Every woman listening to this, these are sage words.
Hmm.
Own what you bring.
Love that. Yeah,
Never forget it.
yeah,
And we do, we
yeah,
forget it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
These people, they're often fortunate to have us.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
But you know what? It takes time to get there, right?
absolutely.
Because it takes time. The reason why I feel like it takes time is because when you're starting out, you are often a minority if you're a woman or if you're a black woman or other things, right? So you could be the only person who is an LGBT from the LGBTQ community there. You could be the only person who has ADHD, right? Whatever your dimension of difference is, at the beginning, it feels very isolating. It feels like you are kind of climbing up a hill by yourself. And so it's very difficult to really come into your own and know what you bring. And so that's why I feel like it's really important that you don't just take one source of validation. You don't just take what your leader says. Go and seek out other opportunities to validate that you what you bring to the table, to believe in yourself, to understand your strengths. Like do that work. And I think sometimes we don't do that self work. And I know you've done that self work. I've done that self work. And that's where you get to a point where like, actually, no, I bring a lot, thanks. You know, yeah, because you've done the work. You've dug deep, you've unpicked, you've gone to
Yeah,
therapy, you've done all of them things. And so therefore you stand there taller because you know what you bring.
absolutely.
Mm.
Looking back on your upbringing, adversity, perspective, how did that prepare you for the work that you do right now?
So I have been living independently since I was 15 years old. And so to me, that was that has been the defining thing, right? 15 years old, you're still a child. My son is 17. And so, at 15, you in the UK, you go into kind of a hostel situation until you're old enough to become an independent living young adult. And so I saw a lot of injustice. I saw a lot of kind of how people are treated when people perceive you to be something, right?
Mm.
Um, and so I talk about it, I talk about it in my book, in The Illusion of Inclusion, because it is an illusion. The illusion is that the system has created a fairness for you. You should be fine now,
Mm.
right? But actually, you have no guardrails, no support, no network, no connections, no guidance. And so, although the illusion is that you've been given all the resources to survive, you've not been given the resources to thrive. You've been
Big
just
difference.
survive, right? And it's a huge difference, right?
Yeah,
And and so, when we talk about privilege, we're not saying that you're privileged because you're white and so therefore you have been given everything. No, what we're saying is that you have had access to
thank you.
things. You have, that your race has not been a barrier.
Yeah,
And so, I learned that I had to learn that very early on in my life. And so that then shaped who I am and what I am. And one of the things because even I was having a conversation the other day, and someone asked me, well, how did you know that, your life could have gone a very different way? And I said, well, yeah, there was something. I knew I didn't want the life that I had. I knew I wanted more. Didn't quite know how at that time, at that age. Didn't know how I was going to do that, but I knew I wanted more. I knew I was destined for more. And so, them early years of my childhood really I had to grow up and be an adult very, very quickly. And that shaped a lot of who I am today, and the passion and the grit and the determination and the ambition. It's because I'm not I do you don't ever want to go back to the circumstances in which you come from.
there's
Mm,
your anchor, your well source that you draw on
yeah, yeah, yeah,
through everything.
yeah,
What
yeah.
habit, ritual, or mindset do you that others might find interesting or unexpected, but that keeps you grounded in your mission?
So I didn't know until later on in my career that I love writing.
Mm,
I love writing. I love being able to share my thoughts and perspective. And that's probably why, I've done so well on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn was always kind of written form content. And I really love kind of writing that thought leadership, getting my thoughts on paper, really testing my hypotheses on a few things in writing. So I often write, I write every week. Sometimes I'm writing my posts, sometimes I'm writing for my newsletter. Now I'm writing for the book. So it's all really exciting. But I thought one of the things that I think when I need to escape, I go in and I just I start writing, and I don't write intentionally. That might sound odd. I just
Mm.
write. So I just
Ooh.
write from my head and then make sense of it after.
Well, it is a form of therapy,
Yeah.
certainly, and a lot of therapists recommend doing exactly that, just writing.
Mm.
And my daughter at the moment is doing the artist way, and it's just she's meant to write 5 pages every day.
Wow.
And she particularly gets up in the morning and she writes the 5 pages.
Oh, wow.
And she's found it incredibly therapeutic, but also inspiring. So I
Mm.
do think that that writing is necessary and it is good. It's a good way to take to be mindful, to take everything down a notch, to
Mhm.
stop and to think and
Mm.
to relieve,
Yeah.
and release.
Yeah.
So I do think that it's very important.
Yeah. And also I am a Christian, so I pray, and I think that that grounds me as well, and even when things are really hard, that's the one thing I can go to and know that, I get a sense of peace from. So praying is
Yes,
also important.
faith. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
find it's crucial to me as well.
Mm.
Faith is very important to me.
Yeah.
Spirituality is very important to me, and it grounds me every
Mm.
single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a world that often measures success by visibility or profit, how do you define a meaningful life? And what does impact look like for you?
Wow. That's a really, really powerful question. So the first part around kind of what does success look like? To me, it has evolved actually. A lot younger, it was the house and the car and all of them things that was, as I've shared in my background, that was okay, Hannah, you've been successful, you've made it. But that has evolved over the years, and I've got children now, and one of my daughter has a genetic disorder, and so that's put life into perspective for me. And this year, my mum passed away again. That's put life into perspective for me. Um, I've shifted gears in my career. That's put life into perspective for me. So now. Whereas before, my success was very much on kind of what I can obtain materially. I think now more success is about making sure that my family are happy and healthy, and that we have the things that aid us to be able to do that. Having impact, and I'll come on to impact because impact is really, really important to me, but having impact in the world, living a purposeful life, doing purposeful work. Don't get me wrong, still love a good handbag. Don't get me wrong, I still love a nice brunch, and them things also bring me joy. Self-care, self-love. I do. Life has changed a lot for me this year, and now I take myself every week to have brunch by myself, and I've got my book and probably a nice drink, and I'm sitting there and I'm reading and I'm writing, and the ability to be able to do that is a new love of mine, because when I 20 years I spent in corporate, and so every day you get up, you go to work, you start probably around about 9, you finish probably around about 6 every single day. And so this new life that I have, that I can go to lunch at 12 and still be there at 2 and be reading, and like I'm really loving that, and I'm loving doing purposeful work. I'm loving working with different brands who want to make an impact in this space. And so I know that's a long-winded way of saying, but that is what success, the new success for me is. And I suppose what I'm trying to say to the listeners is that it evolves, it changes, it goes, different points in your life, it means different things. And different experiences make you feel, make you think of success in a different way as well. That's what I'm learning.
Yes, and I agree with that. And age and life experiences, really help you shape that. You
Yeah,
said something interesting about happiness, making sure that your family is happy.
yeah.
How do you prioritize your own happiness? Because I
Mm,
think we often, as women, prioritize everyone else's needs above our own. We're
Yeah.
taught that from very little children.
Mm.
And actually, my philosophy is I am not a martyr. I do not want to be a martyr. And I don't want to be multitasking, even though I know sometimes we have to multitask. But my priority is to look after myself so that I can better look after those that I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
And happiness is so underrated, the most underrated quality. So I really strive to make sure that I feel happy. And I want other women to prioritize their happiness. Do
Mm.
you prioritize your happiness? And if so, has it been a struggle to do that?
Yes. Yes to the fact that it has been a struggle, and but no to the fact that I don't prioritize my happiness as much as I would want to. So not no totally, because to my point earlier, I do make sure that I have a nice lunch. I do step away. I do prioritize my reading. I'm trying to live a
Mhm.
slower life. And I think that's all really, really important. So from that perspective, I think absolutely, I'm starting to just make a few tweaks and build new habits. Um, but I think happiness is difficult to obtain, particularly when you are such an ambitious woman, when you have people who depend on you. It's very difficult. It's very easy, should I say, to just go into mum work mode and just want to get shit done, right? Like that's what we do, right? We get it done. And sometimes I do wonder whether that is at the detriment of our own happiness.
No question. It is. But at least you're taking the steps to reframe.
Yeah,
You got the time now.
yeah,
You've got a different perspective. So I'm like, you know, really hold on to that because
yeah,
of course your life will speed up again.
yeah, yeah.
So these moments where you have that ability, take that time,
Mm,
enjoy it, savor it, and
yeah,
be happy. Be as happy as you can be. Because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
fleeting. To be honest, I strive for contentment because I think that's quite realistic. But
Mm,
happiness, when we feel it, that true, pure happiness is something you must hold on to when you have the opportunity.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And for me, I think it comes in waves, right? And one of the things I'm learning in this new season is that we get to write the rules. I feel like for years I've believed that I've had to follow other people's rules. And so, although you do say it will get busy again, and I do, and I am busy. This month particularly, October, November, I am really, really busy every week. But I am deciding that no, you can't put nothing in my diary until 2 o'clock.
There
That's
you
my
go.
choice. Whereas before, we don't have that choice. You work for a large corporate, but now I'm being able to say, actually, no meetings before 10 o'clock. I'm now being able to be intentional. So I'm still busy, but on my own terms. And
There
that's
you go.
new. That's really new. But I'm hoping that that stays, right?
Yeah.
That I keep that opportunity to shape the life that I want and be busy, but be busy on my terms.
Well, you know what? If
Mm.
you want it, and we know that you can achieve anything you put your mind to, that's what your reality will become.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Given the backlash against DEI, particularly in the States,
Yeah.
what do you say to those who believe inclusion has become too political?
What do I say? Hmm? Um,
Many things that we can't really say.
that we cannot say on this beautiful podcast now.
Yeah.
What do I say? What I have been saying is that the language of DEI will probably, has gone. Them days of DEI, DEI initiatives, all of them things. The language has evolved. To me, the work will always remain the same. I don't think, although we are backtracking in several ways, I don't think we're going to go back to, looking up at a board and seeing all men and seeing, no people from diverse backgrounds and thinking it's okay. I don't think
Mhm.
we're not going to go back to where that time. I think there's always going to be a need to have equality, to have fairness. The language around DEI has probably evolved, but language evolves. We know this, right? The HR space is now being called the people space. The talent space and the learning space is now called the L&D. Language has evolved. So as a practitioner of inclusion, I'm comfortable with that language. Call me whatever you want. But I know that the work still very much remains. The work still remains. A lot of these organizations, you can see they are pivoting their language, but they are still doubling down on the work that they want to achieve. Now, don't get me wrong, I do believe that everyone should benefit from fairness. Everyone, every demographic should benefit from fairness. And so therefore, wherever we can do that, wherever we can include everyone, we should absolutely do that. However, I would never want to take away from the nuance of being a woman or the nuance of being a black trans person.
Mhm.
Right. Like that is nuanced. That requires leaders to think differently, be differently, lead differently. And so the world is changing so much. The 60% of the whole world identify as Asian, right? And so if you as a leader don't understand the nuance of inclusion, in by 2030 you will have no choice because the team that you will be leading will be very diverse in age, in in ethnic background, in genders. There'll be so much diversity that if you haven't cotton on to the fact that you need to lead inclusively, that you need to have inclusive language, that you need to think about how people want to work, then you will be left behind. And that is the reality that no administration can stop. The reality of diversity is already here. And so it's just about how leaders choose to lead in this space.
I couldn't agree with you more. So I think it's going to take some people longer to catch on to that, but that's the fact. I
Yeah.
agree. Actually, just by the sheer numbers of people from diverse backgrounds, it's unavoidable. You
Yeah.
can try to fight it all you want,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but the change is already here.
Here. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we're getting the backlash, is that they
Yeah.
see change. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a bit shocking for
It
some
is. It is. And
particular
that's
people.
yeah. And and that's why I do the work that I do, because I do believe we need to lean into that fear. How do we help people along the journey? Like this isn't a fight. This is why it really touches me, because we're not fighting for anything wrong. We're actually all supposed to be fighting for the same thing, to help customers, service customers, build businesses, build profitable businesses, all of these things. That's really fundamentally what we are all trying to do. What we're trying to say is that you can't do that in the best way if you all look the same, if you all
There you
sound the same,
go. There you
right?
go.
And so when I talk to leaders, I strip it right back. What are we actually trying to do here, right? And then how do we help you get there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
which makes a lot of sense. Just curious, I have a large healthcare client in the States led by a liberal CEO, new, who came in. And three diverse members of his board said, you need to bury DEI, remove the letters, bury it, but do the work underground. So, what do you say, literally? What do you say to that person who is leading, that senior VP, that member of the executive board whose purpose, values, beliefs are, ingrained in this work? What advice can you give that person who's devastated that three
mm-hmm.
diverse people say, bury it?
Mm-hmm.
How do they move forward?
Yeah. So firstly, with any of these type of conversations, you need to lean into that. What are you trying to say here? Because language is, Lynn, I don't allow language to scare me. So the word bury, the word, DEI, all of that, as a CEO, them words shouldn't scare you. You should lean into that. What is it you're trying to say? Right. So you're saying that the language is putting people off. You're saying the language is having an adverse effect. Okay. So let's take it a level down. What are we actually trying to do? Well, we want to make sure that we attract the best talent. Okay, how do we do that? Well, this is right. So do you see what I mean? So the work will remain. I think as leaders, we need to lean into these conversations. We need to hold our composure, but also hold our stance. We need to believe in something. So if we believe that this work is important, as a leader, language evolves. If our client dynamics change today, we would move with our clients, right? So we have to understand the shifting that we are seeing in times. But I would coach that leader to really unpick what's being said, understand the work that is at hand. What do we really need to do to achieve what we're trying to do? And then communicate that out clearly and openly to the rest of the organization. Now, you don't need to say we're getting rid of D&I. You don't need to say DNI, we're burying DNI. You don't need to use that language. If you do the work, you understand what fundamentally we are trying to do. We are committed to attracting the best talent here in our organization.
There you
That
go.
does not say anything about DEI, but that means that if you're committed to attracting the best talent, surely the best talent do not all look the same, sound the same, come from the same place. And so you cast your net wider. And so I'm really encouraging leaders. I'm speaking to a few leaders similar in similar situations at the moment, and I am asking them the hard questions. Are you asking the hard questions? Are you digging deep? Are you leaning in? Are you stepping forward? Or are you retracting? Are you scared? Are you worried? Your
Lead
business will see
in.
both.
Lead in.
They'll see whichever way it is.
Absolutely. A
Mm.
little lighter now. If we looked at your calendar and bank statement, what would we learn about your true priorities and what you value most?
Oh God, don't look at my bank statement. Um,
Girl, the
yeah.
money matters.
Right, it does, it does, it does, it does. Do you know what? Of late, it has been, I would say, it has been about just finding times and moments for quiet. So you'll probably see brunches, lunches here, just finding moments for quiet. Because I've had to do a lot of, I'm having to go deep in myself and find and around discovery. And if I'm very honest with you, I'm really struggling with this idea of identity at the moment.
Mm.
And
Tell
so
me about that. What do you mean by that?
20 years as a corporate girly. um, who am I now? Without the title, without the big corporate name behind me. Like, who's Hannah Awanuga? What do I stand for? What do I believe in? What work do I do? Like, I'm having to dig deep into that.
Can I give you a little bit of advice?
Yeah.
Having spent 15 years in a corporate environment in the media business, and when I was handed an opportunity to kind of just go freelance, uh, I I took it. I just said, it's time for me to do something a bit different.
Mm,
And knowing I was capable, but maybe not understanding how I was going to get there, I just did it. And I gotta say, one of the best things I did was not overprocess it
mm,
because it's easy to overprocess, especially when you've been successful at something.
yeah,
And your expectation of yourself looks a certain way. It's
yeah.
defined a certain way. So I would say to you, and I am not saying this is easy, don't overprocess because
Mm,
you have a foundation. You know what you're capable of.
yeah,
So I'm saying to you, lean into what you already know and
yeah,
trust me, it will fall into place. It will take time, but you will be more aware because the signs, you have the time to see the signs and
yeah,
make
yeah.
decisions, good decisions that will help you. So don't overprocess and give yourself grace.
Mm,
Give yourself grace because you got it like that. I
mm,
mean, you do.
yeah,
You've got it like that. You have had power
mm,
and influence, and it will it will evolve even further.
yeah.
So allow yourself the things that you're doing, of course,
Hmm.
taking that time, but try not to over process because sometimes that makes things even more confusing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, you're right. You are right. You are right. I think it's been an interesting journey because whilst I was in my corporate career, I was also building a brand, right? And I've managed to build this amazing brand where, that's why I'm still busy now, which I'm really grateful for. But I remember sitting on a panel earlier this year, and it was very confronting because it was just Hannah Onuga. And that felt weird to me. And that then sent me on this discovery of, okay, well, who am I without the titles? And I think that discovery is really important because, as you know, when you are in corporate for this many years, your career starts to wrap itself and intertwine itself with your whole identity. And so, what I've had to do is unpick that like an onion to find out, okay, well, what more do I bring? What else is there outside of that corporate structure? And it's been fun. It's been hard. I think I mentioned before, but particularly hard because I lost my mum.
Yeah.
So I think it might not have been as hard if that didn't happen. Um, but I know you're right. Don't overthink it, lean into it, and it will fall into place. But I feel like for people that are on the call, it's also really important to know that we do wrap ourselves in our careers, and our identity then starts to be attached to titles, director this, partner this, global that. And so the exciting work that I'm doing is, okay, well, what happens when you're just Hannah Awanaga? What happens when you're now the founder of your own business? How do you stand firm in that?
You break all the boundaries.
Mm. Yeah, that's what I was
You
saying.
break all the boundaries with your badass self.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly that. Exactly
Your
that.
faith clearly grounds you. How has it
Mm.
guided you through these times like when you're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
uh, and it wasn't easy? Times
Mm.
like you are now on a
Yeah.
road to discovery, a new journey altogether.
Yeah. My faith has been fundamental to just where it's been my guiding light, my guiding principle. And I say that because, like I said, there has been several situations in my life where things could have actually gone a completely different way. And so I have been grounded in my faith. I've been grounded in my belief of a higher purpose. I've been grounded in in the fact that I know that God has a plan for me. And so I seek out that plan and I constantly go back to my faith to check in and ask God to continue to guide me on this journey, but then also remove things that are not of
Mm.
Him. And so that has been quite confronting this year. And so that's why they say, be careful what you pray for. Because, that has been for years in my career. I was always like, God, I want to follow you. I want to do the things that you want of me. And so continue to remove the things that are not of you. And so when things then get removed, I'm like, oh, not that, not, not that part. But but then that's when the faith and the trust comes. And in therapy, actually, last week we were talking about this idea of surrender. Because sometimes you want to have full control.
Ah.
Right? That's not the plan? I was supposed to leave corporate in 5 years. Why am I? What? Da, 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 you know? And so we have been trying to unpick this idea of, how do you really surrender all to God? You can have faith, but do you have trust? You trust Him. And so that, you know, and it really, really grounds you when you have them conversations with yourself and with God. You're really unpicking the layers then, aren't you? So that's the work. And I'm not perfect, and I do my Sunday post on LinkedIn. I share my Sunday post on LinkedIn, and that is just an outlet for me to share my faith and encourage others, because I feel like God didn't give me a platform to then not use it to share the glory of God with him. So that's why my faith is very important to me. And yeah, I'm currently in that kind of faith trust cycle of, you have faith, but do you really trust him?
Yeah,
How do you surrender?
I get it. And
Mm.
surrendering control and really absorbing trust, believing in trust is the key to every kind of success.
Mm.
We cannot control every aspect of our lives.
Yeah,
We have choices. We can make choices. And choosing to let go of control and trusting that the right thing will come is a really hard thing to do.
yeah,
But knowing that you need to do that is
mm.
beautiful
Yeah,
and empowering in its own right.
yeah.
When do you most feel at peace, truly fulfilled, and how do you protect that peace in a noisy and polarizing world?
I think it's probably everything that we have said. I don't know if I'm there right now. I don't know if I'm there right now with that. I think, again, I'm on several journeys, Lynn. So you're getting all the facets from me, because grief has really clouded that piece,
Mm.
right? And I've never experienced grief before. I've never had anyone close to me pass away. It's just my first experience of grief. And so I find it very difficult to find a place of peace at the moment, because, and again, when I'm speaking to my therapist, she talks to me about being still. And at the moment, when I'm still, my mum shows up.
Mm.
And so that's very hard for me. And so this idea of peace, it's really difficult when you're kind of wrapped up in grief. And I know grief is not a linear thing. I know that it comes in spouts and ups and downs, and even that whole idea of grief and gratitude, that's still quite complex to me as well. So I can't really answer that question. I feel like I have had peace in the past. There was several times where I've felt at peace, of work's going well, my children are healthy, my husband is healthy. We're doing the things that we need to do. It seems all nice. And in them moments, I try to be present. I try to really be present for what's happening right there and then. I don't believe in balance. I don't believe that women can have it all at the same time, but I do believe that women can have it all. Um, but it will be, you dial it up and you dial it down. So
Absolutely.
sometimes I'm full 100% mummy, sometimes I'm 100% work, sometimes I'm 100% wife or daughter. Um, and so in them moments, I try to be present and give them 100% of me. And that might be at work, that might be at home, that might be with my children. And that's where I find peace, in that moment of being present. But at the moment, it is very difficult to really feel that peace.
Sage words. Final
Mm.
question. If you could speak to your younger self or to young leaders just beginning their DEI careers in particular, what truth would you want them to hear?
So if I speak to my younger self, I would tell her very early on that you do not need to do this by yourself.
Mm.
You do not need to go this road alone. Ask for help, talk to people, connect with people, be yourself. Be yourself with skill. Understand who you are, the refined version of you, who you want to be. What does that look like? That's what I would tell my younger self. I tell her to do the work. I did the work on myself quite late, and I'm only 37. You know, but for her, I would tell her to lean into that. For the people that are starting out in DEI, I'll probably talk particularly to Black women, because I do get a lot of Black women who come to me and say they want to do this work. And my answer to them is, DEI is not about race. So inclusion is not just about race. So if you want to do something because you want to help Black women or you want to help your community, then set up a network, set up a community, like get a WhatsApp group. This work is about business strategy, it's about growth, it's about transformation, it's about culture. So don't come into this work because you want to share your lived experience. There's many ways you can do that. Go and start a newsletter, you know. And I don't say that. I don't say that to, to deter anyone. But
Yeah.
I think the reality of DEI is that in 2020, after George Floyd's murder, a lot of people got into DEI because they wanted to share their lived experiences. They wanted to make an impact in the world. I get that, but that is where I feel like DEI has really been led astray, because if it's not rooted in business performance, if it's not rooted in business outcome, if it's not rooted in culture and transformation and inclusion, then we don't get the results that we need. And so I would say, if you want to get into this work, how many years have you spent doing strategy? How many years have you worked doing people stuff? How many years have you worked with senior leaders? Like, that's the experience that I think you need to be able to come in and do this work properly.
Hannah, thank you so much for your time, your energy, your honesty, your authenticity. It's been wonderful speaking to you, and I wish you all the best and can't wait to read your book.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Thank you so, so much, Lina. I really appreciate you inviting me to come and tell my story here. And it's been a great conversation.
Thank you.
All
And
right.
that's it for this week. See you next time on She Means Business.